Welcome everyone to the Clat Possible YouTube channel. Today we will be taking up the daily newspaper analysis for the 3rd and the 4th of April. So let's start off with the very first one. This is to do with India's first Indian Air Force Heritage Center. So now what all is important? Firstly, where has it been made? It hasn't been inaugurated yet, but it has been made already in Chandigarh. The name of the project director of this particular project is important. So the name is Group Captain P.S. Lamba. Apart from that, certain important factors such as Indian Air Force's first patent aircraft has been positioned here. So Indian Air Force's first patent aircraft, the name becomes important, Air Force Kanpur 1. This was made by Air Vice Marshal Harjinder Singh back in 1958. So that has been positioned here. And the Indian Air Force tabloid that was presented in this year's Republic Day parade has also been positioned here. Apart from this, back in June 2022, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the Indian Air Force as well as the Chandigarh administration in order to make this heritage center. And this was in the presence of the then administrator of Chandigarh and the governor of Punjab, and the name is Banwari Lal Purohit. So that is that about this particular news. Now we can go on to the next one, the news that everybody has been talking about, which is the indictment of Donald Trump. Now, today is the day that he is presenting himself before the Manhattan court, and it is being said that obviously his lawyers would plead non-guilty for him. And how will that change anything for him and his proposed elections and his candidature? We'll take that up as and when it happens in the court. But as of now, certain important things that we need to know from this entire case. So, it's a classic case of a lady who is alleging that, for certain benefits, Donald Trump and she got intimate and those benefits were not provided to her, and later on a little bit of money was given to her to keep quiet about the entire thing, and how that money was misrepresented in the financial accounts. Okay, so that is what the entire story is about. Now let's understand it. So the Donald Trump and Storm Daniels or Stephanie Clifford saga, right? So the seeds of this particular thing were sown 17 years ago, where Donald Trump met Stormy Daniels, who's a pornographic star and director, at a celebrity golf tournament in Nevada in 2006. So at that time, Donald Trump was a part of this show called The Apprentice. And he basically told her that he promised her that she would be a guest on this particular show. And they got intimate later on. And he never fulfilled that promise. And later on, you see what happened was he started working towards his candidature for the US presidential elections. That is when Stormy Daniels or Stephanie Clifford, she basically wanted to, make some money out of it. And she basically went around selling her story to different news paper companies, and one of this was Lifestyle. Okay, so she sold her story for $15,000, but it is alleged that Trump's office killed that particular story and threatened to sue in case that actually happens. So this went on for a very long time, after which in 2016 the Washington Post published the infamous Access Hollywood tape. You must have heard about it or must have seen it, wherein Donald Trump is making tall claims about groping women and he's using very lewd terms when talking about women. So at that time, you see, because he was standing for the presidential elections, what happened was his office got in touch with Stormy Daniels and they ended up signing a non-disclosure agreement. Stormy Daniels had signed the agreement. Michael Cohen is basically the Trump's fixer. He also signed it, but it is alleged that Donald Trump did not sign this particular non-disclosure agreement, wherein what had happened was Michael Cohen made a certain amount of payment, which was $130,000 from his own personal home equity line of credit, and he wired it to Daniel's lawyer. Okay, and he wired it through a shell company. So now later on, what happened was once Trump won the elections, he reimbursed Michael Cohen, and he sort of showed it on the financial accounts as a legal fee that he had to pay. So that is what the entire thing is all about, and we'll keep reading the papers as to what, I mean, today is the day that he's gone to the Manhattan court, and people are divided. Some of them are for him, some of them are against him. It is also said that he's utilizing this for his next candidature, and he's also built a huge amount of popularity through this particular incident. So let's keep reading our papers and let's keep seeing what happens to this particular news, because this is the first time that a president of the United States of America is facing criminal charges. All right. So now the next one is Finland turns to the right as it prepares to join NATO. So at the very onset, I'd like to give you a little bit of a homework. There is a certain Prime Minister of Finland, a woman, who was in news for a certain party that she had thrown at her place, and that it went on to become a huge controversy. So you will tell me the name of that particular female. It's very, very easy to figure that out. Now let's come back over here. So you see what happened was, so the National Coalition Party is said to, it is the one that has got the maximum amount of votes in this particular election. So with the top three parties each getting around 20%, it is very difficult for one party to form a position, to form a government. I'm so sorry. It is difficult for one particular party to form a government alone. So there has to be a coalition in that sense, because there were around 2,400 candidates from 22 parties for just 200 seats of the Nordic countries' parliament. All right, now based on this result, it will in all probability be under the leadership of National Coalition Party, and the name of the elected leader is Petteri Orpo, all right, who will be in all probability the next PM of Finland. So he's a 53-year-old man and likely to become the new Prime Minister. And well, another thing that you can keep in mind over here is the name of Finland's parliament. So it is known as Eduskunta, right? So you can keep that in mind. And well, the rest of it is okay. You will have to go and figure out the name of that woman that I'm talking about, who was into this controversy because of that video. Okay, so all you have to know is this. Secondly, it is set to join NATO. All right, this particular man is the Secretary General of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So, Jens Stoltenberg, fine. He says that Finland will become the 31st member of the military alliance, which is set to happen today. Apart from that, you can keep in mind that Turkey was the last one to hand over its ratified document for assuring that Finland gets its membership, and it has been handed over to Anthony Blinken, who is the US Secretary of State as of now. All right. Secondly, the minute this news came up, there were certain statements that were made by Petteri Orpo to the effect that they are in complete support of Ukraine and completely against Russia. Okay, so that is something you can keep in mind, and that is something that is very simple also, because they are set to join North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, the next one is to do with the New York Times, and it is not just the New York Times. Basically, what is the news all about? That there's this little blue tick or an authorization blue tick which you have in Twitter accounts, correct? Earlier on, what used to happen was that used to be a benchmark of showing that, this particular account is an official account and you're getting proper news out of it. Authenticated sources are putting up whatever they are putting up. But as of now, because Elon Musk is the one who's heading Twitter, he basically said that that blue tick or that authorization is subject to a monthly payment. That monthly payment is not a lot, and definitely not a lot for the New York Times. But you see, New York Times, the Washington Post, and many, many other companies, and even the UK White House representatives, they've all said that we are not going to pay for it, because, if you're paying for it, that means you and I can also get a blue tick, and that basically basically puts them on the same pedestal as us. So they said, no, we're not going to pay for it. And in fact, the New York Times also came up with this particular post where they said they would not pay. And so Elon Musk says, I'm going to give a grace period to the rest of them to understand and to think about it, whether or not they want to pay for the blue tick. But since the New York Times has come up in the open and they have said that, no, we are not going to make this monthly payment, he is going to take away the blue tick from the New York Times, which is exactly what he did. So the New York Times has become the first major news publisher to lose its verification check mark on Twitter. All right, and the rest of it I've already told you. What you can possibly keep in mind is the name of the CEO of the New York Times, which is Meredith Kopit Levin. Fine, so you can keep that in mind. Let's go ahead. Acha, there is another thing. I've been reading a lot of comments and you've been asking for these resources on the Telegram channel. So we will definitely do that. All right, we will put all of these PPTs in the form of PDF in the Clat Possible official Telegram group. You can become a part of that and you can look at it and you can revise it at your own pace. Fine. Now the next one is the International Olympic Committee's decision on army-linked athletes cripples Russia Olympic hopes. Now what has happened is the International Olympics Committee has basically said that anyone from Russia, any athlete from Russia who has any link or who is a part of the military shall not be allowed to compete in the Olympics, which basically shatters the dreams of a lot of athletes in that sense. So one of whom is the fencer Sofia Velikaya. She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist in the team and 3 individual silvers have been taken by her. In Tokyo, she was also the flag bearer of the Russian contingent and Paris would have been her 5th Olympics. But well, she is not allowed to do this because of the fact that she is a part of the Russian armed forces. She's a captain in the Russian armed forces, and that is exactly what Russia and the Russian Federation is basically saying, that in case, and this law has already been made, this rule has already been made by the International Olympic Committee, it crushes the hope of a lot of athletes. So basically the IOC says, stop your war and we'll allow these people, these athletes, and until or unless you do that, we are not going to allow them, right? So one thing that you can keep in mind is the name of the president of the International Olympic Committee. The name is Thomas Bach, right? And well, yes, that is also in theory. This means nearly half of Russian athletes at the Tokyo Olympics and almost all medal winners will be ineligible to compete in Paris unless Russia stops its war in Ukraine. So you see, everybody is trying to, in one way or another, put a lot of pressure on Russia, to stop the invasion and to stop the war, because it's been a very long time and negotiations should occur now. And because of the fact that, things like, we've been reading about these tactical nuclear weapons that Russia is going to place in Belarus. It's only going to get worse from here. So it's better to possibly have a conversation. But, well, who are we to say? And IOC is doing its own bit for that. Now, this is another news from the field of sports, and this is not a sad news. This is a happy news. I don't know whether you have ever been following Lindan, but he was one of the best badminton players and has got a lot of accolades in this particular field, and a lot of young badminton players used to idolize him, still do. Well, this particular boy, his name is Li Shifeng, right? And he's the All England title. He has got the All England title, right? Indian is the only thing that comes from my mouth there. All England title for badminton in 2023, and which is great. You see, China's Li Shifeng has created history as he has won the men's single title at the All England Badminton Championship, and he's defeated his fellow Chinese shuttler. The name is Shi Yuqi in the final. And the second point is, of course, the venue. So this was in England. It's an England title. Obviously, the tournament will happen in Birmingham. And meanwhile, in the women's single, it was South Korea's An Se-young who basically got the women's title. So, of course, then, so they are, people are equating Li Shifeng to Lindan, and which is a huge honor. You can go and read more about Lyndon and the accolades that he has got in this particular tournament and otherwise. And we can go ahead. The next one is Israel's former envoy to India appointed as the chairman of Adani's Haifa port. All right, so the name is Ron Malka. Very, very important, right? He has served as the ambassador of Israel to India from 2018 to 2021, right? We've already spoke about the protests that are taking place. I'll just shift this a little. So we've already taken up a session on the protests in Israel. So Benjamin Netanyahu is a name which is not really new for you, right? So let's come back over here. So what has happened is a consortium means a lot of institutions. So a consortium of Adani Ports, Special Economic Zone, and Israel's Gatot Group. They have won a tender last year to privatize a strategic port in Israel, and that's the Haifa port, all right? And now Ron Malka is basically going to be the chairman of this entire project. The port of Haifa is the second largest port in Israel in terms of the shipping containers and the biggest shipping tourist cruise ships. So in terms of shipping container, it is the second largest. In terms of tourist cruise ship, it is the largest, right? And the Adani Group officially took over the Israeli port in January this year, all right, at a ceremony which was also attended by the Prime Minister of Israel, who's Benjamin Netanyahu. So very, very important for you to keep this man's name in mind. He is in news for many, many reasons. Now, the next one is about this certain cricketer who was also known as the greatest entertainer in cricket history, and also sometimes referred to as the Pied Piper of cricket. All right, so the name is Salim Durani. He has passed away. And like I told you, he was the ultimate entertainer in the sense that, the crowd used to ask him to hit a six, and he used to do that, and the crowd used to go crazy. He was a very good cricketer as well as an entertainer. So he's passed away, and you can keep his name in mind. So he's played just 29 tests. Just 29 tests and took 75 wickets and scored 1202 runs, okay? But it was never about numbers. It was always about the entertainment that he used to give to the cricket lovers who used to go and watch his match. Now, the last one for today is a military exercise or a submarine drill. This is with respect to South Korea, US, Japan. They hold an anti-North Korea submarine drill. So which are the countries that are involved? South Korea, US, and Japan. All right. Well, so this maritime exercise in international waters of South Korea. So this is happening in the international waters of South Korea's southern island of Jeju. Very important. So what are they utilizing? Nuclear-powered Nimitz aircraft carrier and naval destroyers from South Korea, the US, and Japan. And this is basically because of the threats that are being witnessed from North Korea's side. And this coordination is basically trying to tell North Korea to not interfere in the waters or to not attack its neighbors, primarily South Korea. So a two-trade drill. And this comes as North Korea's recent unveiling of a type of a battlefield nuclear warhead. All right. And you must be reading about this. They're doing a lot of inventions in this particular field. And well, yeah. So it is very worrisome for the countries. And so hence they also need to build their own attack base, and which is what they are doing. So submarine launched missiles by North Korea are serious security threats to the United States and its allies, because it's harder to spot such a launch in advance. Okay, and they have been testing a lot of sophisticated underwater launched ballistic missiles, and which is why this particular military drill was very, very essential. So that is all from my side. Kindly make a note of it. I'll make sure that you get this particular material on the Clat Possible official Telegram group. You can go there, you can revise this entire thing, and well, that is all from my side. I will